It all started with a knock at the door. 3 slow, firm taps. Not fast, not friendly, like the person on the other side had already made up their mind about me. I had just sat down with a cup of chamomile tea. The house was quiet for the first time that evening. I was finally relaxing when the second knock came, just as firm, but more forceful. My heart sank. I opened the door and saw a police officer in a clean uniform, standing stiff, his hand resting near his gun. Next to him stood someone I recognized too well, Karen Lambert, the president of our HOA. Karen always acted like she ruled our neighborhood. Malberry Glen. She liked control of her lawn trimmed the same, every mailbox painted the same, every child polite and quiet. And there, between them, barefoot and shaking, was my daughter, Lily. Her hands were clenched tightly, her eyes wide. She didn't say anything, but I knew why. She couldn't. Lily is autistic. She's nonverbal. She speaks through her gestures, her drawings, and her movement, not through words. But apparently, that made someone nervous enough to call the police. I stepped forward and pulled her into my arms. "Lily, baby, are you okay?" She didn't speak, of course. She just leaned into me, needing to feel safe. The officer cleared his throat and said, "Ma'am, we got a report of possible child neglect. The complaint says the child refuses to speak. We need to ask some questions." I blinked in disbelief. "Refuses?" I let out a short, bitter laugh. "She's not refusing anything. She's autistic. She's nonverbal. That's a medical diagnosis, not neglect." Karen stepped in like she had been waiting for her cue. "We don't have any of that on file," she said sharply, brushing past the officer like he was just there to back her up. When a child won't talk, it becomes a safety concern for the neighborhood. We don't know what she's thinking. I stared at her and suddenly saw everything clearly. This wasn't about Lily. It was about control. Karen didn't like things she couldn't understand or control. She didn't want kids like Lily in her picture-perfect neighborhood. I knelt and opened my arms again. "Come here, baby." Lily walked into my hug silently and clung to me. I stood up slowly and looked the officer straight in the eyes. "I want your badge number and the name of whoever approved this call." He looked uneasy but didn't answer right away. Then he said something I didn't expect. "Ma'am, I need you to step aside. We're taking the child in for a wellness check. It's just temporary. Just protocol." But it wasn't just anything. Taking a child like Lily who doesn't understand what's happening and can't ask questions, it's just a formality. It's trauma. She began to shake, pressing her fists to her head, letting out a silent scream only I could recognize. I didn't fight. I knew that would make it worse. So I let go of her trembling wrist and watched her get into the police car. I stood frozen as it drove away. For the next 2 hours, I called dispatch, then Child Protective Services. Finally, I was told she'd been taken to the emergency room for a wellness check. I drove there like my body was running on pure adrenaline. When I got to the hospital, I found her in a small white room behind a glass window. She was curled up, eyes red, shaking. She hadn't said a word. I went inside and held her tight. I whispered, "You're safe now. I've got you." After filling out paperwork and hearing 2 weak apologies, they finally released her. No charges, no concerns, just trauma. We got home around 9 p.m. I carried her inside, laid her under her weighted blanket, kissed her forehead. Then I checked the mailbox. That's when I found the letter. It had the HOA logo on thick, expensive paper. No return address. It read, "Minor resident Lily Hale is required to appear before the HOA board to address ongoing behavioral concerns." I didn't cry. I just sat on the cold kitchen floor, holding that letter, and felt something change inside me. Not break, just reset. They had gone too far. In the days that followed, Lily pulled away from everything she once loved. She stopped going outside, stopped sitting under the oak tree, stopped touching the wind chimes she used to adore. She didn't eat her favorite foods. She wouldn't hum her bedtime tune. She wouldn't even look at me. The worst part? She didn't reach for me anymore. It was like even I had failed her. One night, I saw her pressing her forehead into the pillow again and again, slow and rhythmic. I froze. Then I gently pulled the pillow away and took her hand. She didn't resist, she just pulled away. I called every specialist she'd ever seen. One of them finally told me what I feared. This isn't regression. This is trauma. And then the second letter came, this time about me. It said my family may be subject to a residency review due to recent behavioral disturbances. No names, no sympathy. Just cold words. That's when I pulled out my old yellow legal pad and a binder I hadn't touched since law school. The grief could wait. The anger had work to do. First, I collected every one of Lily's medical records, diagnoses, therapy logs stamped, signed, notarized. Then I gathered every HOA letter, every memo, every notice they had left on my door. I highlighted their words: unfit, disturbance, unresponsive child. This wasn't concern. This was discrimination. And then I found gold. My neighbor Howard, a Vietnam vet who lived 2 doors down, had a Ring doorbell camera. I asked to borrow a drill and left with a flash drive instead. On it, footage of Karen Lambert standing in the street, talking to another board member. Her voice loud and clear. She just stands there like a freak. Doesn't even speak. What if she snaps? I paused the video and felt something rise inside me. Not relief, just fuel. I filed a federal lawsuit. 3 charges: violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act, emotional distress, and gross negligence. I named Karen, the police officer, and the entire HOA. I wasn't hiding anymore. News spread fast. Reporters came. People paid attention. I didn't seek fame, but I didn't stay silent. I said it clearly. This isn't about neighbors. This is about using rules to silence and shame children with disabilities. The trial came quicker than expected. The courtroom was full. I stood alone at the plaintiff's table. No big team, just the truth. I showed photos of Lily withdrawn, medical documents, therapist reports, and played the video of Karen's cruel words. Her lawyer tried to argue context. I looked at the jury and asked, does the context matter when a child stops eating? When a mother has to rock her daughter back to life? The courtroom went silent. The jury took less than 4 hours. They ruled in our favor. $250,000 in damages. Karen was removed from the HOA board. Brighton Glen was ordered to issue a public apology and complete ADA training. I didn't cry. I didn't cheer. I just nodded. But the real victory came 6 months later. One morning, I got up to make tea. When I came back, Lily was standing next to my chair, calm, barefoot, her small hands on the keyboard. She had typed 6 words. You stopped the bad lady. I couldn't move. She remembered. She understood. She saw it all. I knelt and pulled her into my arms. Through tears, I whispered, "No, baby, you gave me the reason." They tried to silence her. Tried to define her by what she couldn't do. But her silence spoke louder than anything. And in the end, justice didn't just speak, roared. If you've ever watched power used to harm the innocent, if you've ever seen rules twisted to punish someone different, tell your story below. Because sometimes the law doesn't just protect, it fights back. And when it does, the truth always finds its voice.